Okay, thank you, Andrew, for joining our podcast. Pleasure to have you. Thanks for accepting our invite. And I
Thanks for
was
having me.
going through your profile. It will be a great session for our audience. But for our audience to start with, why don't you introduce yourself? I'm sure everybody knows you. You're doing a lot of stuff, but
Well,
just
I'm
for
sure they don't.
yeah.
But yeah, sure. So Andy Mason, I'm currently head of data and analytics at Granger PLC, who are a one of the UK's largest residential landlords. We've got about 11,000 homes across the UK. So a big residential landlord. So
Mhm.
that's my current day job. I've been in data analytics probably about 15 years. Fell into it after university. Um, Kind of fell in love as a BI developer. Worked
Okay.
my way, got pretty good at that. Went to kind of find out what happened on the other side of the fence. So then I went into data warehouse developing and data engineering.
Okay.
And then basically decided to go into more management and leadership role, where I led a big team at the NHS Business Services Authority, where we built data products for GPs and things like that across the UK. And now, yeah, work for Granger as head of data analytics. And when I'm not at my day job, I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn and at conferences, whinging and moaning about poor data visualization, basically.
Yeah, actually, it's a good journey. As you mentioned, you started with BI, went towards data engineering to understand what data is, where this data is coming for BI.
Yeah,
And I think that is where it takes you towards the storytelling as well, right?
yeah.
You need to understand how requirements. So our today's topic is data visualization and storytelling. So
Mm,
tell us
yeah.
about how you want to take it up. You want to start from business side, that how you came up with the data storytelling, or you spend enough time in BI, went to data engineering, and then you realized to sell to someone, to management, you need to have a story with you. Right? How
Yeah.
was the whole journey?
I think basically you could have just gone like that with your hands. It was a bit of both, basically. So I built, as most people who start their career in BI, yeah, or very early data professionals building data visualizations or dashboards,
Mhm.
I didn't know there was a best practice. I just thought you click the buttons in the tool and whatever popped up was, that was good practice. It was only kind of when I started not getting the adoption um, and the kind of outcomes that dashboard and data product was developed for that I've started to question myself why. Um, why were people exporting it into Excel? Why were people not changing their behaviors? Why were management not buying into what I was telling them and presenting to them? And that's when I started basically reading books on the topic. Yeah. And understanding that there is an art and a science to data visualization. So building the charts to kind of help build a narrative around and then tell that story and present that to senior leaders. So it was a bit of both really. It was definitely one from, yeah, starting off as a BI developer and just kind of relying on the tool to do the best practice for me,
Yeah.
which often they don't. And then, yeah, the lack of adoption and the annoyance that kind of
Yeah.
gave me really.
Yeah, actually, this is a very, very good point, right? Uh, as we all know that as per Gartner, 75% projects goes on shelf.
Yeah, yeah,
The new name of the failure is putting it on shelf. Nobody call it as
yes,
failure, they put it.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Now the question is why it is on shelf? Because
Mm,
there wasn't any adoption. Now the question
yeah,
comes why the adoption was not there, because when the project started, everybody wanted to have it.
mm,
Everybody was participating in the requirement gathering. Then how come once you go into a production, nobody is using it? So
yeah,
there is a reason, and it's a very good point you raised it, that storytelling is something you have to build up context. The moment you go
yes,
into production, you have to have some kind of, again, workshop with people and tell them the story. Hey, the product which we have built, it can serve you in this purpose.
yes.
I absolutely agree on that one. So tell us about this beauty of storytelling, how you can improve, and what benefits it can bring to your product. Let's start step by step. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So I often when I talk about storytelling, yeah, I pretty much kind of put it into these four buckets. There's four elements to it, okay? So there's characters and context, okay? So who is the story about? Who's involved? Who cares? And this is about the big players, yeah? So you're talking about if you're presenting something like an insight, for example, we have one where we reduced our complaints handling time in half. Yeah, so we reduced it by 50% by um, kind of building data products to help manage that process and shine a light on where things needed tinkering in the process. Okay, so when we're communicating that, we don't really talk necessarily about everyone involved in that process. Yeah, we talk about the big character. So it might be the operations manager or the head of customer experience or, the complaints manager. We're not talking about everybody that's involved in the process because not, it's too many people for people to care, really. Yeah. And then the context, why do they care? What's in it for them? Yeah. You really need to understand why people should care and would want to care.
Mhm.
What are their KPIs? How will it affect their business, bit of the business? How will it make their life easier? Often we talk about when us data professionals start communicating about data, and what we've done, we often talk about the technicalities of what we've done and ins and outs of the dashboard and how the dashboard works. Yeah, and the filters and the slices and all of this stuff. People know that you're clever. Yeah, you don't have to persuade
Boring.
people you're clever. Yeah,
It's
it's
very boring.
boring.
Very
It's
dry.
it's it. Me and you could talk about data all day long, and we'll find it really interesting. But your CFO doesn't care. Yeah,
True.
yeah. You've got a job because he thinks you're clever and he thinks you can do it, so you don't need to keep persuading them. Okay, so it's about them. It's not about you. Yeah. So who are the characters? Why does it matter to them? What is the goal? What were they trying to achieve? Okay. And again, how does that tie into why they care? Then you talk about the kind of challenge and peril. This is the third section. So what is the risk if we don't do anything? If we didn't do anything? Yeah. So if you're trying to enact an action, what is the risk? What are we trying to change? And then the final bit is almost like the road to resolution. So how did we get to the outcome that we wanted to? And what has been the payoff for the business? So, instead of saying something along the lines of, we've increased sales by 10%, yeah, you could just say that in a slide. Boom.
Mhm.
Okay, brilliant. But if you say, our CFO came to us um, and explained they were concerned with our falling sales rates, yeah. So that's what they're in. So that's a character. That's a context. Yeah. That's what they're worried about. Yeah. They asked the data team and the customer experience team to go away and have a look at if there was anything within the sales journey that was affecting that. Yeah. What we found is some poor customer service satisfaction levels in certain areas of the business. We identified those. We put a plan in place, and as we have fixed those kind of customer experience problems, then that has increased number of return customers and sales have gone up 10%. And kind of by just adding those little bits in, you've kind of got a bit of a tale to tell from who the character was to what the payoff was.
Okay. So if you go one step ahead, are we talking about that storytelling need to be on use case basis or on a data product? Because nowadays data product name is becoming very famous. Since day
Yeah,
one, all app systems were data product,
yeah,
but as we were centralized, each organization was focusing on enterprise data warehouse. So it was a one
hmm
data product. Nobody used to call it data product.
yeah,
It was
yeah,
data
yeah,
warehouse. But now the mesh data product coming into picture, not implementing the way data mesh want, but because of
yeah,
this AI thingy. right? Gen A, so small products coming in. So are we saying that story need to be the whole product story, or within a product there can be multiple use cases comes in, or I'm saying that
Yeah,
the story for each use case.
I think yeah, but I think every use case, if you kind of park what is a data product, for example, yeah, um, a data product could mean different things to different people. So
Yeah.
let's take the example of you do have an enterprise data warehouse, and then you've got some dashboards, a typical kind of traditional BI layer, yeah, and you've got dashboards. So every dashboard there should exist for a purpose, yeah, and that
True.
purpose is to deliver insights to help people make decisions and make the business better. Yeah. Um, so each of those should have a story or a narrative as to why it was built. And you, as a data professional, should be tracking the impact of that dashboard or data product or whatever you want to call it. Yeah. So if you've implemented a dashboard and, some code in the back end to monitor the complaints process, for example, yeah, you should be monitoring whether that SLA, the KPIs that people care about that you got in requirements, is going up or down. Yeah, because essentially that is the basis of the story that you would tell when you are communicating whether that has been effective or not.
You are absolutely right. So I have come up with so I've met. I think it's better to highlight a person, Shane Gibbon from New Zealand. He has come up with information product canvas. So for
Hmm.
me, he has found a problem statement that gathering requirement up to the translation into a technical specification, that's a gap,
Yeah,
because it depends on the BAs how BA take it,
yeah,
right? If it is an internal project, BA is good because it's a functional guy sitting inside the business. But normally when
yeah,
vendors comes in, X, Y, Z capable BAs comes in and they just want to wind it up and they do not do a lot of thing, right? So that is where
yeah.
he found this gap. He is coming up, his book is coming in February onwards. Uh,
Oh, okay, nice.
yeah, so its product name is Information Product Canvas. I can share the link with you as well. Its documentation is free. So that is where this idea came to me that there are normally four pillars. For me, is you ask a question. So whenever you're
Hmm.
going for a product, and you are right, product can be one dashboard, product can be a whole solution as well, because it
Yeah,
depends. Right? Story need to be there. So the four pillars which I come up with is, if you're building a product, you're building to ask some questions. It has to have questions.
yeah,
Secondly, question has to have answers,
hmm,
right? Once you have the answers, you need to do an action on that answers. So you should
yeah,
already know that what actions I need to do. And it doesn't finish there. After answers, after actions, you should have a value generation. So
yeah,
these four pillars has to be there, right? It's always action, always value. So now what you're
yeah,
saying here is, even if I bring this storytelling to from my angle, we are saying these four components has to be there in every storytelling and for every use case.
yeah.
If that the dashboard does not have this a canvas, then you might decom that dashboard. Am I right to say that?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I mean, ultimately, if a dashboard or data product or whatever you're calling it is no longer serving a purpose in terms of it is no longer allowing the business to drive value,
Hmm.
then essentially it has become redundant. Yeah,
Yeah.
um, to a point. You may want to track the KPIs over time to make sure nothing is getting worse or worse over time. But some of them will become kind of BAU KPIs where
Yeah.
you might have had, and it depends on the business because um, it depends how kind of much a business wants to go into continuous improvement. Yeah, because fundamentally you can improve every process all the time, over and over and over again.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and squeeze every kind of inch of productivity out of that process and whatever. So you can do that, but how many organizations are resourced to do that for every process? Yeah. So we're all resource limited. So sometimes you've got to get things from, you know, bad to good, and then you might have to go and work on something else that's bad instead of turning that good to great. Yeah. Um, so, but if once you're storytelling, storytelling will help once you are communicating that the output of that data product effectively to senior stakeholders. Yeah. The
Okay.
canvas you've talked about will essentially make sure you're building the right data product for that person or for that bit of the business. Yeah. So that will give you the right data model, the right dashboard, the right KPIs within there, and enough insight within it for someone to create the actions because us data professionals don't perform the actions.
Mm.
Yeah, we don't go and change the complaints process or the returns process, or we're not marketing professionals. So we won't go and change product descriptions and logos and things like
Yeah.
that, will we? Yeah. So we are giving them the information to make that action. And if we can collect that action, then if they change the logo and things like that, then we would want that as a data point so we
Mm.
can monitor that in our data product or dashboard to say that did work or didn't work.
Mm.
Yeah. But then when we are talking about you're taking that kind of data and the output and saying and communicating that to senior leaders to say, your investment in my central data team is worth it because we have helped deliver X, Y, and Z. Yeah, that is when you start really relying on storytelling. It's very hard to build a story within a dashboard. Yeah.
Mm.
Um, it's you're really dealing with almost narratives within the dashboard. Okay. So you can control in the narrative of a dashboard to have a specific purpose. When it comes to kind of storytelling, I would always say that is when you are almost either writing a report or kind of verbally speaking about the outcomes.
Yeah. So if we take it to next level, right? Are we saying that storytelling, because we are saying for a product, for a dashboard, we need to have a story, right? Now this story is the story different for different level of stakeholders? Because there are
100%.
operation people, there are the management people, then there's a top
Hmm.
level. So we are saying same product, but different stakeholders and different stories, is it?
Yeah, 100%. I'll give you another example. So if if you did a survey and the results were 75% of people would recommend our product, okay? If I was talking to senior leaders, I would turn that 75% of people into three out of every four. Yeah? Because that's easier for someone to get their head around. Because 75% of a person you'd have to chop their head off or chop their arms off to get 75% of a person. Yeah. So you kind of, if you think about it, you break it down, and that's, I always call that making numbers resonate. So you're making them easy to consume for the user. So I would say to senior leaders, three out of every four of our customers would recommend our restaurant or product or whatever it is. Aren't we great? Yeah. That's how I would present it to them. That same bit of information, if I was talking to um, the product team, I would say one in every four does not recommend our product. Why?
Hmm.
Yeah. So it's the same bit of insight, but you've got two different stories because you've got two different audiences and you want them both to behave differently.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so depending on that's why your audience is so important, knowing the characters and the context of who you're communicating it to is so important when you are essentially communicating anything data specific. Yeah. Um, and it goes back to kind of building dashboards or data products, building one dashboard or data product or whatever to try and serve your C-suite, your middle managers, and the people on the shop floor, essentially, yeah, doesn't work.
Hmm.
Building one dashboard to try and serve multiple levels of users, it doesn't work, okay? Um,
Uh,
because they've all got different skin in the game.
so what
So,
I'm saying here is a product can have a information, but same information, different levels of information need to be presented to different level of people. It
yeah,
can you cannot you end up saying, hey, sales of the whole company for the whole region might not be good enough for a person who's sitting in a city. So
Yeah,
region does
yeah,
not
exactly. Yeah,
region.
yeah.
Okay. Okay.
If you want to communicate the data effectively to those people in order for them to act in the way you want them or they want to act, yeah, so they're getting the insight quickly to make decisions, then you've got to tailor those. Let's just refer to it like to dashboards. You've got to build those dashboards tailored for that role and that person.
Personas. In other words, you have to have
Yeah, yeah,
for every product, you have to have personas, and your stories will be based on the personas. Of course, the same goal, but different
yeah,
level of
yeah.
granularity for every persona. So if you go a step back, one step back, right? This user story normally you create after you get the requirements done, or
Hmm.
it's very basic, and then you create a
Yeah.
story based on story, you do a requirement gathering. Which step it comes?
Yeah, it would come in requirements gather. It would come in the kind of requirements gathering as you speak to the different levels. Okay, so they've all got different um, KPIs or different interests in that bit of the process or bit of the business. Um, if it was sales, for example, your CFO or your CEO might not care about individual sales managers' performance.
Hmm.
They just want to know what are the sales to date? How does that compare against last year? Are we on schedule to meet the target for this year? Yeah, that's what they might care about.
Correct.
Yeah. And then kind of if you go down a level, then kind of team managers or sales regional managers would care about their team's performance.
Hmm.
So yeah, so where are they going? How many calls are they doing a day? How many, what's their conversion rate? Are they hitting their targets? Yeah. And then if as you step down to the individual people, they might care more about what contracts are coming up for renewal in the next 3 months for current customers. Yeah. What new leads have we got? All this kind of stuff. So it might end up being, and this is why you've got to be really, it's taken a long time for me to kind of get to this point where having those kind of three personas, yeah, if it was three in this example, being able to look at all of those and then the data model to um, enable you to build data products for each level,
Hmm.
um, because fundamentally it's the same data. Yeah,
Yes.
it's just different kind of aggregations of that
Yes.
data.
Yes.
Yeah, so you don't really want redundancy in your data model or in your data warehouse, but you
Absolutely.
can accept a bit of redundancy at the BI layer. Yeah, where
Yeah.
you're building different dashboards or different kind of you're surfacing that same data three
Mhm.
different ways to three different personas. So
Yeah,
fundamentally, you should have that kind of persona set up before you start designing the data model.
you're
Yeah.
absolutely right, right. So when I talk about these four pillars, what I'm building a paper on it. Maybe later on I'll share with you as well. These four areas which I just mentioned, four pillars: questions, answers, action, and benefits. Right?
Mm.
Value. After that, I feel what I'm building is that information product canvas needs to come. So canvas is something you go to a C level or whoever the stakeholder
Yeah.
and ask. There are 12 sections in this information product canvas, which say, hey, give me the questions, give me the answers. What is
Yeah.
the actions? Who are the personas? Which kind of daily dashboard you want? You want a daily or you want a hourly batch?
Mm.
These then use cases, then will and will not. So Sean has come up with this 12 areas, right?
Yeah.
I feel after this you come up with of course, with all these, you find out entities. You
Yeah.
have to
Yeah.
find out
Yeah.
entities, which all entities your questions
Hmm.
can have. Based on the entities, you end up creating graph theory. In
Mm.
graph theories, at detail level, it's nothing more than taxonomies and ontologies. So you already know whatever you're trying to build, these entities are used, and these
Yeah.
entities have these relationships,
Yeah.
and each relationship has these properties. And I think once you have that, your story is end to end is built. And once
Yeah.
this graph theory is built, then your data model comes. And data
Mm.
model can be anything. As you
Yeah.
mentioned, it can be a 3NF, it can be a star schema, it can be a data vault, it can be a
Yeah.
point
Yes.
anchor, it can be anything. is based
Yeah.
on the what story you are doing it. If your
Yeah.
story is more towards or your vision is more towards granular level, you will go granular level data modeling.
Yeah.
And if you want to build four type of dashboards, as you mentioned, three persona dashboard, you may end up creating three semantic models, some kind of data model to serve
Yeah.
those purposes. So I agree on this one. So you're saying this story sits almost every. I think what I can take from here is this whole solution follow the story. Is that
Mm.
correct, right?
Well, yeah, fundamentally, the story comes from answering the questions and from the answers of the questions you set out. Yeah.
Ah, okay.
So you've built that product, haven't you? Because, like you just said, you've asked the questions of what are they trying to get out of it? What is a
Yeah,
problem, the
yeah,
business problem you're trying to solve?
yeah.
Yeah. Once you've done the end to end and you've delivered that, and that data product, whatever, is in production, it's being used. Yeah. Then fundamentally the story can only come once you've got a bit of the value. Has it worked or not?
Uh,
Yeah.
Outcome of the story, whether the story which you are trying to build, whether
Yeah.
it's being built or not.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh, yeah, of course.
Right? Because has to be an outcome. As you say, value generation is the action and value generation is there.
Yeah.
Your whole story will say, hey, this is what you want, this is what you get, this is what you do, and this is what the value generated. So this
Yeah.
is the whole story. So it is, I think it's
Yes.
something like in traditional solution, we create a user stories. Based on the user stories, we create test cases,
Hmm.
right? So test cases has to map user stories or
Yeah.
use is what we call it, use cases. So what you're
Yeah.
saying when we create this story, then story has to have a successful ending. That okay, we
Well, it
deliver.
doesn't have to. It doesn't have to. It doesn't have to. So
Okay.
so in the example of the complaints example I gave earlier,
Hmm.
yeah. So, kind of what CFO came to us worried about sales. We went and explored. We found some poor customer experience scores within a particular business unit. Yeah. We've recommended some training and we have brought in an additional resource to help them get up to speed on customer experience and customer service.
Hmm.
And that has been implemented for the last 3 months. Um, Now, what you've got no control over. That's where as a data professional, your control, your bubble of control kind of ends. Yeah.
Hmm.
So if the people on the shop floor are still rude to customers after that,
Hmm.
so
Hmm.
nobody comes in and sales remain low,
Hmm.
then that is your story then. Yeah. We've
Okay.
done this, we've done this, we've done this. It's clearly not working. That's why no stories in data, especially when it comes to data storytelling or in business, never really have an end. People often talk about storytelling as a start, a beginning, and an end, but
So
we
you
all know it never ends. Yeah, we all
you
know
made
it
it
never ends.
so you made it more interesting. You are saying when you're going to pitch an idea to a C level or management, it's a different story for the same product, but it's a different story because you want to win a project or you want to solve some problem. But once you implement it, then story changes. So it's something a
Yeah,
story which will happen, a story which has happened. So two different
yes,
stories.
two different stories. Yeah, because they're
Okay.
two different purposes, isn't it? The first one is, we want to go and do this. This is why,
Hmm.
and the latter is we have done this, and X, Y, and Z has happened. Yeah, good or
Oh,
bad.
so that will go into a lesson learned or something output
Yeah,
documentation. Okay, you started from here, but after doing the whole thing, you end up here. So
yeah.
that's kind of a lesson learned what what not to do for the next project.
Well, yeah, but that's a bit talking about. I think that's maybe slightly too technical. If in that example, you'd be saying, um, obviously the CFO would be saying, well, I don't care about the lessons learned from the technical side of things.
Yeah.
We have invested in a customer experience program to improve our customer experience scores within that bit of the business, and it hasn't worked. Yeah. So,
Hmm.
so we've done our job. We've shown the data. We've shown that when we did the training, the fact that these scores have stayed the same. So now that, we've told the story of what has happened
Hmm.
since we implemented the project. Yeah. Um, why we started the project, why it was important to them, what we were trying to achieve, kind of how we got there, and then what happened at the end, which in this instance might be so it's either a happy story where you say, well, yeah, the customer experience scores did go up and sales went up as well. Yeah, and now we're back on track.
Yeah.
Phew. Yeah. And as a business, they'll be like, right, okay, that's something we need to be aware of. We need to make sure that customer experience levels are kept around this level to maintain our sales. Yeah. Um, if it was the other way and you had implemented training, you'd invested in an additional resource to help that team and all that kind of stuff, and still the customer satisfaction scores were still low and sales were still low, then again, as data professionals, we've still done our job. We've done and we told the story, and the reason we're telling the story is because the business will need to do something else
Yeah.
to
Yes.
address that issue.
Yeah. So I was coming to that, right? I think from that, we can still, shouldn't that story should also say, hey, we started from here, we reached here, nothing changed. So maybe the expectation was wrong,
Hmm.
or when we converted this story into a technicality, there was a gap over there. So we can always find something. Shouldn't we be highlighting that as part of the story as well? Whether we achieved or we did not achieve and why we never achieved. If of course we don't end up achieving it.
Yeah,
Should it?
but I guess my pushback on that, I guess, would be how would we know that it was a technical gap in what we built? Um,
True. True.
Truth,
Yeah.
yeah. Fundamentally, um, in this example, fair enough if that was the case. So
Hmm.
if we'd missed um, some additional data points which pointed them in the right direction,
Mm-hmm.
and we excluded those, yeah, because we didn't think it was important, and they
Mm-hmm.
went down, kind of the wrong path,
Hmm.
then yeah, we could say, well, we've done an additional analysis and maybe this would help, blah,
Hmm.
blah, blah. Yeah. But fundamentally, again, I'm no customer experience expert. We're data professionals. So we're relying on the business to
Yeah.
guide us in what they're trying to achieve and
Mm-hmm.
what insights and kind of analytics we can give them to help them empower that decision making.
Yeah.
So, we're only building really what they ask us to build in order to help them kind of get to a get to a resolution.
Yeah. Okay. Let's move towards storytelling because you are from customer experience, right? What is the importance of learning storytelling from technical point of view as well? Because you start from a data engineering, you become a BI, you there's a data modeling tool, data modelers role. There are data steward roles. So many
Yeah.
roles are there, right? How important for each role, or is it important or not? That hey, data engineers, you don't need to learn storytelling. Hey, BI engineers, you need to because you are facing the user, right? So, which
Yeah.
role do you think data storytelling makes a difference?
So, I mean, I would argue if we refer to it as ultimately effective communication skills in general is vital to any data professional that wants to progress and be one of the best. Yeah. Um, you have to be able to talk and think like the business. Yeah. So that is really important. So even as a data engineer, not all businesses. So, I've worked where I have been both the data engineer, the BI developer, the BA. I've been all of those roles in one basically because we didn't have separate BAs and things like that. So I was talking to the business and gathering requirements and building the solution as well. So storytelling is ultimately massively effective for all of those roles because fundamentally, whether you are communicating to technical people or to non-technical people, you still need to be able to make people care. And changing it to storytelling instead of just kind of talking about the technicalities of things will certainly help in doing that. So why should we care? Yeah, why should your colleagues care about helping you in this project? Why is it important to the business? If you just talk about we need to build this widget and these few data flows and then a dashboard for customer X, that isn't that motivating. Yeah. If you put that into like a story of, the business is struggling with sales and we have been asked to help and we could potentially increase sales by up to 20% if we can, help this, then your colleagues and data team and other technical pods will be a lot more engaged in that process. So I think it's really important for everybody. It's certainly important for people that are business facing. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Now, if we bring AI into the picture, nowadays we know that this AI agents has surfaced like anything, right?
Mm.
Last time it was data mining, then it became data science, then big data came in, then Gen AI came in. Now
Hmm.
Gen AI, the word start coming, QAI also coming, quantum AI. So all these terms keep changing. And
Yeah.
for me, the biggest change would be to have AI agents, not AI agent which is out of the box like Gemini or ChatGPT. I'm
Yeah.
talking about an AI agent which sits on your laptop. You enable it, maybe Llama XYZ open model on your system,
Hmm.
and you let it run on your laptop or on your servers. It learns your environment and it
Hmm.
helps creating it. So, how important this AI agent becoming in building this storytelling? Because a lot of AI agents will be biased, right? Right now, open chat GPT is very much biased on a generic data. It's not a
Mm.
domain specific. So it's
Yeah.
simply ask, hey, build a storytelling for me for a banking or medical sector. It might
Yeah.
not be able to create for you because it was trained on a general. So how important, what will be the, I would say, impact of AI in storytelling?
Well, I think in my instant, from my point of view, I think kind of if we talk about kind of Gen AI in storytelling, yeah, if you've got your own kind of private LLM that you can put details of a project in. So technical, I'll start again. Data and technical people are on the whole, we aren't the best communicators to the business. Yeah. Um, and when it comes to creating slideware or getting ready to what to say to people, we often revert to what we know, which is technical implementation. Yeah. But we,
Yeah.
we can talk about it. Yeah. And I've done enough presentations in my time to know that if I'm talking about something I know, subject matter wise, I
Hmm.
feel very comfortable and I don't really have to prepare that much. If
Yeah.
someone asked me to do a presentation on, the best air fryers, I would struggle massively because I've got no expertise and I'm just not very good at kind of BSing on the spot. Yeah. So Gen AI can massively help us in terms of framing it. Yeah. If you can feed it the outcomes and the context of your data initiative that you've just done and ask it to kind of frame a data story, that would essentially that will help massively for data professionals and technical people that where communication isn't their kind of forte. Yeah. So I think it can massively help there. I think the excited bit I am for me is when kind of this kind of Gen AI world really gets its hand on traditional dashboarding. a
Hmm.
bit like ThoughtSpot, a bit like kind of where it starts to generate the end-to-end kind of story
Yeah.
without you having to do it. Yeah. Um, or it's able to find the stories within there where you're maybe missing them. But data professional, that we are always constantly under the microscope of
Hmm.
ROI.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
always.
Always.
Um,
Yes.
you go on LinkedIn and all people talk about is what value is your data team providing? Can you quantify it? Yeah. If your CEO came up and said, you guys cost me 300 grand a year, why should I keep paying that? Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes.
Now, so one thing is yeah, storytelling and that kind of salesperson kind of ship of getting investment in the first place is huge.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, but actually constantly selling and telling your data story of, this quarter we have worked on these projects and they have done X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
Yeah. To the C-suite, wherever you can get kind of on the microphone essentially to communicate what you've done, how you've helped deliver value, you have to do that. And that is, I would say that's equally as important as doing it at the beginning to get kind of executive buy-in of what you're trying to do.
Oh, so that brings a question, a very valid question, a very valid thing which is flying nowadays, having a product owner and
Mm,
business product owner as well as technical product owner, right? Because see,
yeah.
business product owner selling the cost of business, I think is not a big deal because business product owner is coming from the business itself and
Mm,
business is doing something. The challenge comes technical product owner. Technical product owner who is managing the infrastructure and who's managing dashboard XYZ. Hey, why I should pay for you? Why not you
yes.
automate it and cut down your team? That is where I
Hmm.
think what you're saying here is are you saying that in your storytelling, we need to highlight the product owners as well?
I don't think so. I mean, a story is based on the value, yeah, and the outcome, really. Yeah.
But
So,
to whom as well, right? Outcome for whom? So because
yeah,
that whom
for
will
whoever you're telling the story to, okay?
oh, oh, to whom
Whoever you're telling the
telling
story
story.
to,
Okay. Not
yeah,
the product, because when you're going to C level, man, the product owners might be maybe for finance, might be head of finance. So
yeah,
the product is being will be built for finance, head of finance, but
yes,
you're going to a C level to get the approval. So is
yeah.
it important in the storytelling to tell the stakeholders as well that hey, the product owner of this product will be this XYZ, and this is what the value they will be generating on it. Is it a good idea to share into the storytelling?
I think, yeah, adding I mean, that would be a character in the
Correct. Okay.
story. Yeah. Whether
Okay.
they're a product owner, I don't think the C-suite would care or maybe would even know what you're on about if you call them a product owner.
Mm,
Yeah. But if you're saying the head of finance have asked me to do this, yeah, and because of X, Y, and Z, and because we've done it, yeah, we have increased profits in that region by 10%, yeah, which is 6 million quid, yeah. Fundamentally, the C-suite care about that, yeah.
mm,
So that is what and that's what I mean when you are communicating what you've delivered as part of a data team,
mm,
knowing who you're talking to and why would they care,
mm,
essentially helps you communicate that a lot more effectively.
mm. Okay. Now we have a time check. We are already around 50 minutes, so we have 5-10 minutes. So tell us that the length of the story, how lengthy story should be, because there is elevator pitches as well. There are other pitches.
Yeah.
So can you give us some types of stories? You know?
Yeah. I think it would again, I think it would completely depend on the way you are communicating it, okay? So, for example, if you are writing it in a board paper or you're writing a kind of one pager or, a kind of a business case outcome document or something like that, then that's as, um, that's a piece of string, really. Yeah. If it's a presentation, you don't want to be, you're not dealing in the detail here when you're communicating the outcome to senior leaders. So you're
Mm-hmm.
keeping it short. Yeah. 5, 10 minutes for a slide deck.
5, 10 minutes. Okay. So you're saying should not be a lengthy story. Okay. Now another
No,
question. Should you be drawing onto the board when you're doing storytelling? Or it should be because the moment you start drawing, more questions comes in. Because people
exactly.
who are listening, they are the gurus of what you're telling them. So
Yeah.
what's the best practice? Just create a deck and just go through it, or
So
also.
yeah, I think, well, obviously it depends on your audience, yeah. So and the culture within it. So if people are used to draw, if it's a highly technical kind of C-suite and environment, I'm sure drawing on a whiteboard, talking about it, would be really engaging and useful. Yeah.
Mhm,
Um, if it's kind of a traditional kind of business, like we're in property, so that's quite a traditional business. Healthcare was quite traditional. Using a simple deck, yeah, would really kind of make sure you control the narrative. When you're kind of communicating data in any way, shape, or form, what you need to make sure is that um, the visualizations themselves within that deck where you're communicating the data
mhm,
and your kind of end-to-end story,
mhm.
you control the narrative all the way through. So people don't look at a chart and say, if there's 5 people in that room, you don't want to display a chart on a deck or whatever and have 5 people look at it and take 5 different things away from it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and you waste 20 minutes talking about the chart. Yeah.
So you are saying don't put anything onto a deck where people start connecting more than they are listening to you.
Yes.
It
Yes.
should be in such a way, should be generic or such a way that people continue listening you rather than
It should, well,
having
no, it should be specific to the message you're saying. Yeah.
very specific. Yeah.
Yes. So, for example, if you wanted to say, I'll give you a really quick example.
Mm,
If your customer experience program, where you invested in it, you got people up to speed, yeah, and 12 months later, you measured where your customer experience level is now, okay? If you showed a line chart with all 12 months or 52 weeks or whatever it was, and
mm,
you saw the line kind of going like this, yeah, up and down, all the data points, then those people around the room could look at those 12, 52 data points and all focus on different things. Yeah.
mm,
So
mm,
someone might say, oh, why was it so high in March? Oh, what happened in December? Oh, it was low in the summer. Why was that? Yeah. And
mm.
you've lost the narrative. Yeah. If you change that to just a slope chart where you had last year, this year, and it's just a line that goes up, then all you're there to do is communicate the fact that it's gone up.
So you are saying
So
even
you've reduced the noise.
so you are
Yeah.
saying if it is a 12 month chart. So and if you want to show month by month, so better with click, go month by month with each click, so everybody is
No, just year to year.
year to
So
year.
two
Okay.
data points, two data points, and a straight line. Does
Okay.
it go up or does it go down? And
Okay.
that's what you're there to communicate. Yeah.
Okay.
So from January to December, did it go up or did it go down? Yeah. So if we're saying it was successful, you're saying, look, it's gone up. Yeah. It doesn't matter how it got there.
True.
Doesn't matter. Yeah. The story is you asked us to do this, we did this, the business did this, and it's gone up. End of story. Isn't that brilliant? Yeah. And you've kind of controlled the narrative of that story and of that by simplifying the chart and making sure it's tailored to the story you're telling to that audience.
Okay. 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 So you're saying it has to be 5 to 10 minutes maximum story because the lengthier
Yeah.
will drag it, right? Five
Yeah.
it's good enough for a C level, and that is, I think, that is what they are expecting, and that is how much time
Yes.
they have to give it to you, and that is
Yeah.
where they can put their attention 5, 10 minutes maximum. They don't want
Yeah,
long.
yeah, it's the same for everyone, really. You know, we live in a very busy world these
Yeah,
days.
yeah. Okay, okay. So I think it's great. I think we again have a time check. We only have 5 minutes. So the session was good, Andrew. And and I think this is one of these sessions which I was waiting for long, because I personally feel since we have moved into the era of AI and since everybody is going towards data products, storytelling will become humongous, I would say. Not only after creating a solution, before creating a solution.
Yeah.
Yeah, right, right. Because you have to go more often to the management now. Because when we talk
Hmm.
about enterprise warehouse, it was a multi-million-dollar project.
Yeah.
Everybody gets involved. Okay, for 2 years, nobody cares.
Mm.
Now products will become small.
Yeah.
People want delivery within weeks, or
Yeah.
if not in weeks, in months at least.
Yeah.
3 months was there. I think now it will reduce to 1 month to 2 months, every small
Mm.
delivery. That is where people will start creating, I personally feel, towards information product canvas to graph theory. You end up finding entities and concept and relationship. And based on that, chunk by chunk, I think people will start creating the products. Okay,
Yeah.
you discuss 10 entities. Within the 10 entities, you have $1 million revenue generation plan for a year. Let's break down into 10 pieces.
Hmm.
Every month, give me two entities and less hitting $100,000 or $200,000 for a quarter. So I feel that is where things are going, and
Yeah.
storytelling will become more and more important.
Yeah, because ultimately you are saying you've invested in this, we've done this, and it's delivered this.
Yeah.
So, and the opportunity is if we do this other two entities and we unlock the insights within this bit of the business,
Mhm.
then the potential savings are there. Yeah. And then they'll make the decision to invest. And then you say, okay, we did that. Look, um, conversion rates have gone up. We've enabled that. Now, if we build two more entities, we could unlock bits in X, Y, and Z, and the other two data products have delivered A, B, and C. Yeah, and you're constantly evolving the story and the value that you've generated. So
Yeah,
it's kind of full circle, really, as you kind of gain an investment for your data platform.
yeah, I think this will can also become very important on a weekly reports or bi-weekly reports
Mm,
or
yeah,
monthly reports, because on monthly basis you are giving a status. So rather than
yeah,
giving a status called like, hey, how many issues we faced, how many risks there are,
yes,
it's very technical.
it's very
It,
technical.
I think you should create a story for every
Yeah,
status update. So the moment they feel, okay, we wanted to go from A to Z, but we have reached A to B and B to
yeah,
C, C to D, and this is how we keep reducing the issues and risk, and this is we keep getting the
yeah,
value. I think that okay, this is a good takeaway that storytelling is not about start and end. It is every junction you need to have a story.
yeah. I mean, ultimately, it's about effective communication, isn't it? Yeah,
Communicate.
really.
Okay. Okay. Awesome. Thank you, Andrew. I think we are dot on. We have just couple of minutes.
Cool.
Let's wind it up. Thank you so much for this session.
It's really, yeah. It's as a data professional, it's very hard to keep up with just what's going on in the data world. Never mind the
Yeah.
wider kind of.
The whole motivation of doing this podcast for me was to learn from people like you, because things are
Yeah,
moving so fast. I must admit that I was not a big fan of agile in data world like six
yeah,
months back,
mm,
because I thought you cannot do agile. But since this graph
yeah,
theory, since this data world, focal point, all these technologies has, although these
yeah,
been there for many years, 20 odd years, but it
yeah,
was
yeah, yeah,
limelight, right? Thanks to social media, thanks to LinkedIn, thanks to all
yeah,
that we are hearing all this thing. And I personally believe if you can get hold of your understanding on graph theory and with the concept of taxonomy and ontologies for a project basis, I think
yeah,
we can break down projects into data projects into agile basis and keep delivering
yeah.
small pieces
Small pieces. Yeah,
on a weekly basis. I know people who deliver in weekly basis, because what they do is they directly connect source into a semantic layer, create a rough data model and release it. And back
okay.
end, they keep doing modeling. So people are doing
Mm,
that. but into a little bit dirty manner. But the moment you have
Yes.
graph theories, then you can really visualize it and share it with business.
Yeah.
Yeah. So things are going into a good, and I think it's a good time for us data people as well to focus on more on storytelling and more on agile, because we have been very I think we have to accept that. We have been,
Traditional.
hey, let's build a data warehouse and let's build a data lake.
Yeah.
Takes 2 years. So we
Yeah.
haven't
Those
been,
days are gone. Those days are
those
long
days are
gone.
gone. Yeah. AI will snap you out of it, out of the picture.
Yeah.
Thank you again, Adrian. Andrew.
No,
Pleasure,
yeah,
pleasure having this
it's
session.
been a pleasure.
Thank you. Take care. Have a nice day.
Cool. Enjoy. Take it easy. Bye bye.
Take care. Bye bye.